Tracy.
Hey, Jackie.
We've been having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. We have had a little bit of a chit chat because we have not seen each other in a long time. So I want to tell you thank you for being here and being on this segment with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It took us a minute to actually get it together, but we made it happen. Thank you for your patience.
Well, I will say that I have always learned from you that despite um, barriers to what you're trying to do, getting in the way of things, you always have to move forward. So I will say thank you for that. That is always something that I remember coming straight from you many years ago in my life.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's each one to each one. So obviously I learned it and I just, pass it on. Good.
Of course, and I appreciate you for that. I want to let everybody know why I chose you to be on this segment, but first, I want you to let everybody know like who you really are and what you do day to day.
Yeah. Well, my name's Tracey Walker, and I'm originally from Chicago. That's how we know each other, right? We grew up in church together, and good old South Side. And
Mhm.
I live in Atlanta now, and I have a home-based business, more specifically inside the network marketing niche. So I work with entrepreneurs or wanting people that want to shift into entrepreneurship primarily. Working from home is great. I've worked at home since 2007 or 8. And I think now it's kind of just being a little bit more widely accepted just because some people are kind of being forced to do it. So they're embracing it, and a lot of different software and things like that. It's kind of picking up. So that helps me in my business because people have less resistance. I'm a single mom, and my son's name is Josiah. He's 6. And he is my absolute everything. All right. And so day to day, good thing is he's back in school. So he's on at school. So I get up, take him to school in the morning, come back home, try to shuffle through things I need to do for work, helping team members out, doing whatever I need to do on that end, and then running back to get him extracurricular, jujitsu, baseball, fun, whatever. And then we're home, eating, jumping on the couch, showers, the whole nine from that standpoint. Just being a mom of a boy, I mean, you know what that's like, right?
Yes.
And then we start the whole thing all over again. So my day is just really being mom and being entrepreneur lady. And sometimes I have to remember that I am a human and that I am a woman and that I have to look in the mirror and take care of me sometimes too.
You have needs.
Yeah.
Okay. So your needs day to day that you're able to fulfill for yourself, what are they?
One of the main things that I have in my daily method of operation is to do my meditations, right? At least 15 minutes a day. So that just gives me time. I'll go out on my patio. Even though it's getting cool outside now, the sun hits right on my patio, right? So I can go out there, still feel warmth, and do my meditations and kind of reset, right? Set intentions, visualize, kind of get clear on some things. I actually drink a coffee every day. I have a particular coffee that I drink that I love. It's very great for cognitive function and focus. So I'll do that. Those two things, right? If I don't do it, like sometimes if I just sit, I don't get any work done. If I've done my meditations and I've had the coffee, if nothing else, I can at least write ideas.
Okay, meditation makes the shift for you.
Yeah, it makes a shift.
Okay.
Well, anything getting too overwhelmed. I try to do it at the same time every day, but it just doesn't work that way. In theory, it should, but it doesn't. So if I feel anything, I'm like, I didn't do my meditations today. Let me go clear this. And then I'll stop. I'll go do them. I'll come back and kind of reset.
Oh, so you're able to implement self-correcting behaviors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Day to day when necessary.
Yeah. Like you call it self-correcting is exactly what it is. I've always called it pivoting, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So pivot. Yeah. So yeah, I'm facing this way. Something's not right. Why is it not right? Because I'm facing this way. You should be facing this way. So let's just go ahead and do that.
Okay. So that just is a segue for me into why I asked you to be on this segment with me. So as most people know who actually will catch this, I actually have been doing a Facebook Live and Instagram Live segment for months when COVID started. I had to pivot out of my public speaking because no one was having public speakers. People were not opening their budgets for that anymore because companies were not necessarily shutting down, but they were buckling down on the money that they spent out, right? So I had to figure out another way to use my voice in a way that kept my voice relevant. right?
Yeah.
So I started doing live talks. At some point, it became more lucrative to think about the longevity of my live talks. So I started saving them and developing the YouTube channel. Or actually, I would say redeveloping YouTube channel, right? Because I had the YouTube channel years ago, but it had way different content on it, right? So in all of that, when you say pivoting,
Mm-hmm.
I have only known you to be this way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at what point in your life, if you could just recall, did you learn that that was the mind frame you had to be in order to be effective as the day-to-day authentic Tracy? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When did you learn this and start pivoting in your life? As far as I know, before 2012, like so back to like 2009, shoot, 2010 is when I figured it out that you were in that frame of mind. So
Mm-hmm.
that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you figure out that you needed to start operating this way?
I don't know, Jackie. It had to have been from childhood versus an adult experience or some sort of thing that made that shift, right? And the reason is because I only remember being this way, right? I don't really remember a time where I wasn't this way and then this thing happened and then I was this way. Um, my mother, which you know, and
Mhm.
she's passed away, but she was a stickler for completing tasks, okay, and getting things done. And it's just one of those things that's like, this thing has to be done no matter what. Okay. I grew up in dance as well, right?
Right.
So the whole aspect of dance is the show must go on, right? It's
Mayfair, right?
Mayfair, yes. So whatever is going on, I remember one time we had a dance recital. I literally was behind stage. I had to be like 8. And I had a fever. Everything was, I didn't know what was wrong. My mom was like, what is happening? I wasn't feeling good. But boom, that tap dance, we were on stage in 3 seconds,
Mhm.
right? And we went out there, did the tap dance, came back, found out I had the mumps, right?
Oh,
Did the whole show with the mumps. Didn't know. But it's just one of those things that I just can't remember, not dealing with what appears to be, but focusing on what needs to be done. That's kind of what it's always been. So I don't know exactly when. It's kind of, I think I was raised that way, I guess.
have you ever been to therapy?
I have not been to therapy in the standpoint of that's not true. That's not true. I did. When I was married, we had pre-marriage counseling,
Okay.
and then we did have some counseling afterwards when we were having some challenges in our communication.
Okay.
So that type of therapy, but I have not been for, let's say, self personal.
Individual.
Yeah, yeah. Why you ask
I'm disinterested because I ask everyone this question and I'm going somewhere with that. So, all right, you haven't been to individual therapy. Can you pinpoint a time in your life that you feel like you would have benefited from individual therapy, but you never went?
that? Yeah, I do.
When?
If I could go back, I would say when I was like 5 or 6. I mean, I don't know if they do therapy that young.
They started, most therapists will start at 5, but some, yeah, they'll start at 5.
Maybe around that time, probably because when my parents split up, I remember that was a thing, right? That for me, it was a thing. Because I was a daddy's girl, right? At that, and I'm an only child. So when they split, I remember literally being when I take my shower at night or whatever, I remember bawling, right? Oh, I miss my dad, but I wouldn't do it outwardly so much, right? Like my mom knew I did. It wasn't like it was a secret. She knew I would still express it to her. But I think I would just completely let all of the emotion out in the shower about it. And I think that I learned to manage the emotion of SHIT happens um, by accepting that's what it is.
Uh-huh.
Acknowledge the feelings that I have about it. I don't think I try to suppress the feelings. Like
Mhm.
I acknowledge the feelings, but then I also realize, okay, so now if I keep on with this, where are we going with it? Is this helping
Mhm.
me to continue, or do I need to keep it moving?
Yeah.
And that's I just I feel like maybe if I had therapy kind of growing up, I would not have attracted those same types of patterns over and over and over before I became conscious that um, I keep allowing people, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, to come in and leave, whether it's through my choosing or their choosing, and it really not faze me too much.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was wondering, I mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. Because you're very good at compartmentalizing, you're good at taking what's happening over here and completely leaving it over here, actually. And that's what I mean by that. And
Yeah,
then you have what's happening over here, and you're like, that can stay over there. And then I've got to focus on this. And
yeah,
so while these things are here, here, and here, here, I will handle those when I have time to pull from here, here, here. And you don't necessarily want to even go back to those things. That's always how I've perceived you, but I've always been a little bit in awe of it as someone who's not a professional therapist. And then as a therapist, I've always been like,
interesting.
I don't want to say concerned, but a little like, yeah, that is interesting that Tracy can do that. So I wonder at some point, is SHIT going to hit the fan? And I don't spell curse words, y'all. I'm doing that because Tracy spelled it out. So is shit going to hit the fan or at some point 5 years down the line? Because what I talk to people about now, especially my clients, is that sometimes busy isn't really busy,
No,
right?
it's not.
Sometimes busy is avoidance.
Yep.
And sometimes busy is
Exactly.
fear,
Yeah.
fear of confrontation,
Yep.
of what we're trying to tell ourselves we're too busy to do and confront.
Yes.
So, do you ever feel like that's the case?
Me personally, no, because I have different techniques that I use, right?
Okay.
So like if something's really bothering me, I will journal, right? So like
Mhm.
I'll write stuff out, right? If I'm angry with someone and I don't want to discuss it with them at that time because I don't feel like it's gonna go anywhere, or the way that I would be communicating it, maybe because I'm angry or something, it wouldn't be received the right way. I write a letter, right? In other words, I can get all my crap out the way I want to say it without any interruption,
Yeah.
without you discrediting me or telling me I shouldn't feel this way or whatever that is. I can get all of my stuff out, and then I'm good. I'm good. Now, when I do have the conversation with you, I can listen and it not really not be an emotional exchange versus
Oh, so you keep the letter. You keep the letter.
depends. Okay.
Okay.
If it's an emotion I want to get rid of, right? Like if I'm super, super sad, or I had an experience that really hurt me. No,
Yeah.
I'll write and burn. I'll write and burn and release it. But if it's something where I just needed to get it off my chest, right? Just sometimes I need to refer to it, right? Because I will forget what the problem. Because once I get the problem out, it's like I'm not going to keep harping on the same problem, right?
Yep.
I'm done with it. So if I'm going to then have a conversation with you about it, I'm going to probably need to go back to what I wrote because I really, truly, and honestly don't even care anymore. Right? So I'm just going to kind of go through my notes, make sure I get the bullet points, and then we can discuss it and move from there.
Okay, I will say this. A therapist's job is to provide the tools to the client for the client to go into the toolbox whenever they need a specific tool, pull the tool out and then utilize it to fix the problem.
Mhm.
That's ideally what a therapist's job is. So it sounds to me like you already have your tools in your toolbox and you already know how to use them. So for that fact, I would not, there have been other talks where I've been like, hey, you may want to consider, talking to someone about these things. Like honestly, something also doesn't have to be wrong for you to go to therapy. There
Yeah.
are also issues that come about with questions that come across in therapy that you have not thought about and has not ever occurred to you in your entire life. And
True.
then it shows you why you behave the way you do now. Why are you so easily able to go pull from the toolbox? Where
Mhm.
did you learn that from? Maybe you needed something when you were younger and somebody was not there at the moment to give it to you and you had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with you your whole life. So I was just asking for that reason. I'm just curious about
Yeah. I mean, and also I'm in business, right? So what happens is I've also had, coaching. Now, these people that I've been coached by aren't necessarily licensed
that. Mhm.
therapists or professionals such
Yep.
as yourself, but in working with people and understanding human behavior and how the mind works, things of that sort, um, a lot of things I've learned through coaching and actually being mentored. by people who have attained certain levels of success or certain results that I wanted to have for myself in my own life. And what I found is that, as I talk to you and just different people who do this for a living, a lot of that stuff isn't that far
Mhm.
off, right?
Right.
In terms of like the tools, right? So like writing and burning, right? I mean, there's been times where literally I have gone out and I will scream. Like I've gone to the park, right? I dropped Josiah off, and it's been times where I was like, look, I didn't have any gas money to put in my car, right? And I have gone to the park, and I will have walked, and I get to a certain part deep in that park, and I would just, let it all out.
Mhm.
So, um, I don't. I know. Plus, it's very important to me because I understand mentally that whatever's on the inside will eventually manifest on the
Yep.
outside.
Mhm.
Okay. So because I understand that, oh no, 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 no. I am not getting ready to create cancer for myself
Yeah.
as best as I can, right? Like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to harbor these ill feelings. I'm not going to be mad at you for something. I'm not going to be the victim. I might be for a minute, because you got
Mhm.
to deal with it. But then I can't live my whole life like that because that's hurting me. I got to forgive you. I say my affirmations every day. I say my prayers. I ask people to forgive me. I ask that I'm able to forgive others just in my own little space. And I go on. I sage in my house, right? And I get the energy right.
You and my brother, you and Michael. It must be your sign. It must be the Scorpio thing. I
And
don't
we're the same day too. So,
know. You're very quick to sage.
oh yeah. If you come in my house and I feel anything off, oh, I'm saging
Okay.
after you leave.
Have you heard these conversations about Christians and saging and what these pro-Christian individuals have to say about some Christians that sage?
No, what do they say?
I haven't either. I don't pay attention.
I don't know. I
They,
don't know.
they say some things like negative things, like it's, a lot of Christians are having issues with people that are into like the crystals and the natural healing and the Reiki therapy and all that. And so that just is like attached to that conversation. But yeah, I just brought it up too because I like to amuse myself. And I know some of the viewers are super Christians and they have issues with that and they'll just have to kick rocks with this part of the conversation. So
Well, here's what I find interesting. Like, we don't have to like be on it for a long period of time, but here's what I find interesting. Um, Most Christians believe that there were powers, if you will, that Jesus was able to perform
yes,
healing, right?
miracles.
Okay. Um, Christians would also probably be able to go to the Bible and find where it says, you could do greater works than I.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I find interesting is that when you have remember the bracelets they say, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Right? WWJD. All right.
Mhm.
So they would wear the bracelets that say, what would Jesus do?
Mhm.
Not what did Jesus say, not recite a scripture,
Mhm.
not tell me a story about what happened, but specifically, what would Jesus do? And what Jesus was doing was actually trying to tell people that you could heal yourself. He was actually saying,
Yeah.
right, that if
Yes.
you acknowledge the Father,
Yes.
that anything in the world is possible for you. That
Mhm.
but when you actually go into implementation of that
Come
now,
on, church. Come on, church.
when you go into implementation of it because of what it
Yeah.
looks like, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all really ready for what Jesus did. You want to talk about Jesus, but do you really want to get into what Jesus did? Because in your mind, what would making the blind woman see? What would that look like to you if you were walking down the street and a man was doing that? Would you have a problem with that, or would you acknowledge that as being what Jesus would be doing?
What do you think the hindrance is for people to actually take their lives into their own hands and move forward? What is it? Because that's what that segues right into that. What is the hindrance for people to do that? I'm asking you because at a certain point, I tried to figure that out for myself. And then I realized when I released responsibility of my life from other people, I was able to be responsible for all my actions in my life, which have taken me on this trajectory of
Mhm.
what I'm doing now.
Right.
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 So, what is the hindrance at you being top tier where you are with network marketing? You
Mhm.
seeing all these people coming under you and coming to you for advice and coaching all the time for a period of over 12 years.
Yeah.
What do you think the major hindrance is? Because that's what that has to do with.
Yeah.
People don't want to take responsibility for their own lives.
Uh,
Why?
Fear of being wrong. Because it's easier to say, it must not have been for me, right? The Lord didn't want me to have it. Versus, I
Mm,
really didn't work my ass off like I should have. Or
mhm.
I really didn't want it that bad. Because everything else that you wanted, you say that the Lord gave it to you.
Yeah.
But everything that you don't attain, you say, He must not have wanted you to have it. Well, no, because the truth is, whatever your heart desires, you can have, right? So it doesn't matter. It's not like the Lord is sitting up there like, you can have that. Nope, you can't have that. Yep, that, nope,
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
It's if your heart desires it and you're
Mhm.
willing to put the proper action plan and take the proper steps to attain it, then what the Lord will actually do is order your steps.
Yes.
Okay, so that as you take one step, oh my goodness, a whole nother thing opens up, and you take
Opens up.
another step, and oh my good, look at the options here. I can choose again, and you okay, oh now I can choose again, and you keep refining your process until you get where you want. But when you instantly stop it and say the Lord didn't want me to have it, the the reason I think is fear of being accountable in case you were wrong. Because to want something, to tell everybody, which I don't think you have to do that, but to tell someone, hey, I'm gonna get that house.
Mm,
I'm gonna buy that is my dream house. I want that house. I'm gonna get that house. Last thing I do. And then you don't get that house. The fear of embarrassment or the fear of people, what other people have to say about it, it paralyzes some people. They care more about what it looks like than about the true desire that they possess. And I think that I think it's the fear of being wrong, right? Which is not wrong. If you desire it, then that
right.
seed was planted in the first place. Um, and then what other people think in case it doesn't happen when you thought it was going to happen, which
Mhm.
is not really our job. Like our job is just to keep going. And then if you have the faith, then it's going to happen. But people don't really believe either. Like that's not like people, oh, I believe, but uh, like I walk around every day, right? And I want people to do what they feel they need to do, especially from like Corona standpoint, things like that. I want people to do what they want to do. But I personally have a perspective of no weapon formed against me shall prosper. That says no weapon. It doesn't say, oh, every weapon except the one that the government said should,
Right.
or the latest weapon,
Right.
or the one that somebody's uncle that I know just passed from, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, every weapon except this. No, no,
No
it,
weapon.
no weapon.
All inclusive.
So when we talk about what Jesus would do, well, what would he do? He would not walk in fear if you believe that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. There's no
Yeah.
but.
This is why I'm glad you said this because I did a whole video about this, the fear people were having with sending their kids back to school, right? And people are entitled to do what they feel is imperative for their own household to keep their own children safe. Yes, but and I'm doing that as well. Yeah, I'm hoarding Clorox wipes like nobody's business. Like my son has yeah, hoarding them. I had to call my therapist and ask her opinion about whether she thought I was, yeah, operating out of panic or
Okay,
if she thought I was justified.
okay,
Because that's my way of checking myself. I text my therapist and say, look, this is what I'm doing. Do we need to have a session about this? What do you think about this? And she literally told me, no, you have a child who has serious medical issues. You are operating like any protective mother would. You don't want to run out. And that's your concern. I said, absolutely not. But I have 18. So do you think that's a problem? And she said, well, you have 8, yeah, canisters. Yeah, I have 18 canisters of glass wine. And so she said, okay, are you feeling with the 18 that you're still needing more and more and more? And I said, no, I understand now that I may have enough to last me long enough
okay.
And I'm also willing to give some up to some friends that don't have any. I have been inviting friends, like, do you need any? Oh Lord, everybody's gonna see this. Okay, look, if you're in Charlotte and you're my friend,
And you know, some Clorox wipes.
and you're complaining about that and I haven't said shit, sorry, just let me know. So, all right, I have Clorox wipes and I have Lysol too. But the point is that that's my way of checking myself. Like, you meditate, you may be able to write things down, everything, whatever. I don't write everything down. I use my tools. One of my tools is my therapist. So I text her and say, listen, I don't know if I'm overtly anxious or if I'm hypersensitive about this or if I'm operating out of trauma,
Mm,
but I need to know if I should stop. And
mhm.
so we start talking through that. But I did a video about this and I said about the fear associated with sending your kid to school. And at the end of the day, the nucleus of that all brought it back to the idea of, where is your faith? What happened to it? Like, where did it go? Did you conveniently lose track of it when we started talking about your children and homeschool and the fact that you have to help them with Zoom every day? I mean, the state of panic that we ensue in ourselves, right? Or in our own households, basically losing track of the idea of our faith-based lives.
Mhm, mhm.
Or the question is then posed, are you really living in faith-based way of living?
See,
Or are
and
you
we
pretending?
have to check it, right? I mean, people that are consciously aware, it's
Mm,
an opportunity to pivot. You see what I'm saying? Or not. And, if I find myself in a state of whatever that's not, and I feel it, like something's not right, I have a chance to pivot, assess
mm.
it, and then decide what happens from there. So I just choose faith every time, right?
Okay.
That's just me. I choose faith every time. So, but if we're going to talk about Christians in particular, I
Yeah.
expect them to choose, like,
Yep.
if you're going to say something to the person who's saging, then where's your faith about anything? Because you do believe in spirits, then
Yeah.
right? You believe in Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So then you don't believe that people can actually work with that,
Isn't that interesting?
right? Like the thing that you actually believe in, you're afraid of it. Actually,
It's conditional belief, isn't it?
it's like what?
Okay. They're not ready. It's okay.
No, let's go deep on that. Let's go back. Let's go back to the.
What I wanted to bring up is I just, knowing that we were gonna have this talk, I had to bring this up. I feel like I know I bring this up every time I see you, but I have to make it plain for everybody to know. So I believe Tracey is an asset in any area of life, whether it's business, personal, spiritual, family, whatever. Tracey Walker is an asset. Okay. So I discovered this early on, but it really came to me hard when I was working with you with network marketing, right? And so you were basically coaching me on your team. And I think, of course, because we had like the family connection and relationship, you took me under more, right? I specifically remember, I think your brother in law was killed.
Yes.
Um, yes. And so I remember what apartment I was living, my address at the time. Like, I remember everything. I remember the furniture in the apartment, the color of the walls and everything. So I had a conversation with you where I was going to have a call and you needed to be on the call. And so I text you to find out if you were ready for the call. And you said, yeah, I'm ready. I'm in the airport. My brother-in-law was killed and this is a lot, but I'm ready. And so I remember my response. Do you remember my response?
No. What was your
Okay.
response?
My response was, do you want to do this another time?
Okay.
And your response was, oh, absolutely not. The business goes on.
Yeah.
Like, and it was brutal. Like, I just remember it was so heavy on me because I also operated in a place where I wasn't completely secure with my emotional control at the time, right? And so I was feeling heavy
Mhm.
about what you were dealing with.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes we take on some other people's stuff as our own. Now it's human nature to feel something when something is happening traumatic to someone, right? Or a death, the sadness, that is universal, grief, right? So it transfers from person to person depending on the situation. But your attitude was, I feel bad. However, there's work to be done. So it goes right back to what you said when you were a kid that you learned from your mother.
Hmm.
So you don't remember that conversation at all?
I don't remember the conversation.
Yeah, it is burned in my brain. So
Okay.
this was this was before 2012, wasn't it?
It probably was
We went to California.
2013.
We went to California, San Diego in 2012. So was it before that?
It was probably after that,
Okay. So
or
over
during,
7 years ago.
somewhere in there.
It was over 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember, I remember it's like three living situations ago for me. So I remember that far back. But I wanted to ask you, are there moments where you second guess yourself in your life?
Girl, yes, I
What's
do.
the most prominent moment where you remember second guessing yourself?
No, I can't say that one. Um,
Okay.
huh? No,
Okay, don't. Choose
um,
another one.
yeah, I'm not gonna say that one. This is recorded.
It is.
I would probably say, there's times in business. I mean, if I had to, there's personal things. There's like probably like one personal thing that I wouldn't share. But aside from that, business wise, yeah, there's tons of times. Now I was with a company before I am where I am now.
Mhm,
And I was there for like 3 years, right? And I
mhm,
don't jump from deal to deal. Like I'm the kind of person that when I evaluate something and once I decide I'm going to affiliate myself, I'm going to work this business until I reach, whatever it is I want to reach, whatever
mhm,
the goal is. And it was within 3 years, and I felt like nothing was happening. Nothing. Okay. And I'm coming from the standpoint of, and this is just me talking to me.
mhm,
It's not an ego. It's not like I'm better than you.
mhm,
But as I'm talking to myself, it's like, Trace, you better than this. Right? Like, what in the hell is the problem? Right? Like you can barely make the money that you need to make, right? You're barely doing this, you're barely this. It's like, what is happening? And so I got with my coach at that time in the business, and I asked him, I said,
mhm,
let me ask you something. How do you know when you're maybe just on the wrong path? Right. And so he's like, well, do you feel like you're on the wrong path? And I said, well, I feel like I feel like when I'm on the right path, not to say that there aren't any obstacles, but I feel like when I'm on the right path, I feel like I'm on the right path.
yeah,
And
true.
even if obstacles come, I feel like this is the thing that's going to help me get to the other side. And then we just keep going. I feel like this is a very, very, very counterproductive. Like, I feel
Mhm,
like I'm trying to force something to be
mhm,
because I think that it's where I should be, but I
mhm,
don't feel that it is. And second guessing myself after 3 years of that previously, it's like, damn, you wasted 3 years doing something that you knew you shouldn't have been doing. Like you
mhm,
wasted a bunch of time, right?
mhm,
Um, and so that caused for a minute um, a delay in my ability to make decisions because
okay.
then I was scared to make a decision, right?
Self
Like,
doubt.
oh shit. Last time I made that decision, I spent 3 years not getting anywhere, right? But then having to say, girl, bye, that was one decision. Okay, look at all the other decisions that you have made good,
Mhm,
right? You don't let this one decision completely shatter your whole life because of
mhm,
3 years, girl, hang it up. And I was like, that's it, right? Go back to what you know how to do. How do you evaluate? Right? What's your method for how you
mhm,
evaluate? And started getting back into the way that I do what I do. But I did second guess myself in business at that point, and it affected me because I felt like my income wasn't where it needed to be. I felt like my esteem was being challenged or being presented in front of me where I was looking at myself like, you, who are you?
mhm,
Right? Even when I try not to compare myself, but even looking at other people, I'm like, that person ain't better than me.
I
That
can
person ain't
imagine.
better than me. They can't present better than me. They don't have better leadership skills than me. You know what I'm saying? They don't have better like I'm a better person, right? And it's like, what is going on here? And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way the Lord would have me over here second tier. Okay, because
We always go to the Lord.
the Lord gonna have me in not second tier. It might not be exactly first, but it ain't second tier, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I had to kind of step back into, well, you made that choice to come here. right? You can make the choice to remove yourself.
Mhm.
And you can either stay here and continue to victimize yourself about it,
Yep.
or you could go ahead and make the change and bring life, bring vitality back into what you're doing and carry
Yeah.
it into something else. And I just made the decision to just carry it into something else. But I did regret doing it. I did regret doing that.
I always say when we're in a state of self-doubt, you can either pitch a tent and camp there, or you can grab your stuff and go. So there's the people that grab their stuff and go, and then there's the people that pitch their tent in misery. And misery is a very lonely place to be. At the end of the day, it's always going to be lonely, and it's a fearful place to be, a negative place to be, and there's no good that can come of that if you can't move forward at some point. Um, okay, so we're wrapping up this conversation, and in order to end this, I like to end with. Kind of like the same things almost every time. So I want to
Okay.
tell you, I told you the things about you that I observe, many things about you that I've told you about yourself since in this conversation. Many things about you that I've observed and things that I've noticed that have either shifted or not shifted in a period of years. And I would like to know your opinion about shifts that you have seen with me, probably in the last 10 years.
Mm. Okay. Well, one of the shifts, I know that you've been talking more openly about this. I feel like it's okay.
Mhm, yeah.
Literally is, knowing you and your siblings since you guys were kids, and then you deciding that you wanting to actually meet and create a relationship with your birth
Mhm,
mother, right?
mhm,
And I've seen different photos that you posted. Um,
mm,
I think there's one I saw that you guys were in the car with like a funny face or something like this.
mhm,
And when I look at those things, I'm like, you know what? That is I'm saying a kid, right? Because I'm reflecting when you were a child, right? Versus
mhm.
an adult now. But it's like, you know what? That's a kid who literally can still say, I want to know my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, it's like, I want to know my mom. Now, we don't have to be mother daughter discipline, tell me what to do,
Mhm,
right? But I want to know my mom, right?
mhm,
Who is she? What's this lady like? Because I want to know me, like, where did I come from? What do I look like? And you will bring things up like, oh, we have the same nose, I think, or we have the same this and say that. And I'll find myself looking like, oh, yeah, that y'all do. Look at that, right? And just literally how you have gone from maybe not caring at all or not
mm,
wanting to do it
mhm,
to no, I think it's gonna be a good thing for me to at least
mhm,
embrace this part of me, right? Without any judgment. And I think that's very, very, very commendable, right? Very commendable for you to do. Um, I feel like maybe there's a lot of children that may have grown up in a very, a loving household like you did,
mhm,
where the parents do not encourage or support the meeting, the reaching out to, the building a relationship with the birth parents, right? And I feel that you've had the support, right, on from the parents that raised you, as well as the parent who didn't, okay, but who brought life to you. And I think that that is an amazing transformation to make that shift. I think it's good, even though your son is not in the same situation as you, but he can he has to be able to sense
mhm,
and pick up on a sense of happiness and or fulfillment
mhm,
of something that maybe you didn't have when you were his age, right?
mhm,
Maybe it was a question mark, whatever. I feel like you found that. So I admire your strength um, to go on that journey and that quest, regardless of what the outcome may have been, because
mhm,
some people go on that and get hurt, right? And people hesitate because they don't want to be hurt a second
mhm,
time or a feeling of rejection, right? So that's that. Also with you, yeah, and something else. Also with you and your son, with Karan, right? And just the level of care, right? I mean, being a parent is one thing, but being a parent and then realizing that your child has some special needs,
mhm,
I don't know what that's like, But if I try to imagine that, if you're sitting somewhere and a doctor or somebody says to you, hey, here's this thing you got to deal with now for the rest of your life, and you weren't expecting that, what that can mentally do at that point in time, right? Because all everybody wants is, oh, healthy is this perfect, da, 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 right? And
Yep.
he's all of those things. But there's a little bit more effort that has to go into some things, right?
A lot more.
And your the way that you handle that, the way that you can still help other people while you're doing that, smile, engage in your business endeavors, um, still have a personality that's amazing.
Thanks, Tracy.
I think that is remarkable.
Okay.
I think it's remarkable. And congratulations to you. Let me just say, I love you. And you were a mom before I was a mom, right? And so,
I was.
yeah. And so you know what? That dang Jackie, she's something else. She's a powerhouse.
I really, I first let me say I received that, right? Because we're not always in a mental space to receive compliments.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And this is why you find that people, some people are pushing against your compliment before they accept them, right? Because they have not truly received that this could be possible for what you're saying about them. So I'm gonna receive that because I've been working my ass off with that boy for a long time.
Yeah.
So there's that. You also saw me raising him as a toddler where he was in and out the hospital all the time.
Right.
But I think what I appreciate is that I never felt like I was treated differently by you, even though you knew me before. Like I never felt like, even in like the business stuff, that you were like, "Oh, Jackie," like, you know what I'm saying?
Story, like a sympathy type of thing. That was you.
Yeah, because I didn't present like that. I don't feel like I. Okay.
And you
Yeah.
still represent like that. I mean, I have empathy, right? Obviously. I mean, you see someone that you know and care about and love. It's like they have a lot more on their plate in just regular everyday activities
Yeah.
than the average person. That like just the trip to the store sometimes can be that much more heavy
Yep.
than another person, right? And so no, I have empathy for sure, but never sympathy because number one, I don't believe that that God gives us more than we can bear, right? I don't believe that, but I mean I do believe that, but in believing that, then we have to step to the plate though too, which
Yes.
you've done, right? So if one believes God won't give me more than I can bear, but then you complain and you're the victim, then
Yep.
you don't actually believe you have the ability to tap into the power, the strength, the wisdom, the support,
Right.
right? The courage. You don't believe that's accessible,
Exactly.
but you've done that, right? You tap in, you do those things, and I've never sensed that you were like, oh, woe is me. Down sometimes, a little discouraged maybe at times,
Mhm.
overwhelmed at times. I mean, that's normal. That's a human, right?
Mm.
That's a human. But victim, never, never.
Well, I really appreciate that coming from you, especially because you're like big sister to me. Um, I think with the adoption thing, I wanted to make it very plain, and so people will know. I have not always felt like my adopted parents were extremely supportive of it. That's not how I have felt. I feel they're supportive of me of doing what brings me peace, and it has been hard for them to watch me seek a parent outside of their parenting.
Right.
I think that's going to be hard for any adoptive parent to do. But I also want to talk about this more because people need to have realistic expectations on their children. And that involves adoptive parents knowing that they don't know what to expect with their kids. And at some point, it doesn't have to be something extremely lacking that they're trying to find or a substitute that they're looking for. However, answers need to be given at
Yeah.
some point. And it goes back to what we had just previously discussed with why people do not own up to what they are responsible for in their
Mm.
own lives. At some point at 35, it took me 35 years to realize I was running from the fear of not knowing what would happen if I did find her. And
Mm.
I compartmentalized birth parents over there. And I told myself, well, they gave me this life. It must be for a reason. Jesus gave me these parents. I don't need those parents. I mean, we tell ourselves actually all kinds of things. We
Mhm.
even tell ourselves what God wants us to do sometimes. Some
Mhm.
people can't listen, I don't want to get into it, but some people can't uh, decipher the voice of God from their own internal stuff, right? Basically trying to sway themselves to do what the flesh really wants to do. And my flesh said it's okay on its own. I don't need these things to be answered, right? But at some point, I had someone confront me with a truth that I was not prepared for, which was you are just running from this. And you will continue to run from it for 20 more years if you allow yourself to believe you don't care.
Mhm.
And it really took me to have a breakdown in that moment to realize that was something I cared about.
Right.
So now that I have found her, I had to get to the point. It took me 12 months to get to a point where I spoke about it out loud on social media because I wanted to process my emotions for a year. I wanted to do it privately with my close group of friends who I could confide in about it, and I wanted to figure out my feelings. But I am I am feeling as though being around people like you, kind of being brought up in that business world of everyone just talking about their shit and laying it out. I mean, really, that's what everybody did. I observed that everywhere. You know,
Tell your story. I mean, tell your story because
yeah,
somebody can connect. And if you're not authentic in your story, it makes you almost like, well, let me go figure out my story.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
yeah.
It makes you, to me, non-relatable. So I
Mhm.
just want to be relatable in my own right, living as my authentic self, and watching you has really helped me do that. So that is the point. Is there anything else that you want to leave with everyone while we're
No,
at?
I mean, just thank you so much for having me on. I enjoyed our conversation. I mean, if people want to connect with me, maybe find me on Instagram.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
that's one of the best ways. You can do that. That's at official Tracy Walker, and that's Tracey. Got to spell my name right,
Yeah.
Tracy Walker.
Okay.
And that's it. It's been fun. Hopefully, there's been some value added. I hope that
Yes.
the people that watch this and that listen to this um, are better now after this hour or so than they were in some capacity when they first got here. That's all I can really ask for.
Yeah, I always say that every day is a new day to create a better version of yourself. And I would say that after listening to this, somebody will pick something up. I'm very happy with that. I will be sure to give you the feedback that I receive from this video
Sure.
after it circulates. And I just love you. I appreciate you. I really do, Tracy. You know how I feel about you.
I love you too, honey. Yes, it's been fun. Virtual high five.
Okay, so I will talk to you soon. And thanks for joining us, everybody. See you later.